Team, what is up? I just wanted to give you guys a quick heads up. Mitch Warren, who is the guest of today's show, is actually doing some guided hunts up at the property that we talk about during the podcast, about where he got his scrub bull, and he talks about a few of the pigs that they got up there as well. So he is offering some guided hunts up there for 3 to 4 people or more. So if you've got a little group of individuals who would like to get together and head on up for an awesome hunt up in the Cape, then please hit up Mitch. It's at mitch.warren for more information. He can give you all the details as to costing, as to how it all lays out, but pretty much it's a week hunt up in the Cape. And from what he talks about, it was an absolutely incredible experience. So if you wanted to get more information, once again, head across to Instagram and hit up Mitch at mitch.warren.
This week's episode is brought to you by Chief Dads. Chief Dads is my program that I have created just for dads. If you are a dad that needs to drop 10 or more kilos, you're looking for some training programs to do at home or at the gym, as well as some help with your nutrition, and you really want to put a rocket up your bum and actually get results that last for a long amount of time, hopefully forever, based on what we've been seeing so far with our clients, then you need to head across to thechieflife.lpages.co/Chief Dads. thechieflife.lpages.co/Chief Dads. thechieflife.lpages.co/Chief Dads. thechieflife.lpages.co/Chief Dads. Check it out, dads. Get yourself fit. Hey there, and welcome to Becoming a Bow Hunter. I'm your host, Matty, and join me and our guests as we take the quality of meat back into our own hands, searching the wild for free-ranged animals to harvest as ethically as we can. I interview a variety of specialists from the bow hunting community to help fast-track your journey as a bow hunter. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this chinwag on one of your favorite topics in the world, bow hunting. Good stuff. Alrighty, bow hunters, welcome back. I'm sitting here in Mitch Warren's house.
How you going, mate?
I'm good, dude. Thank you very much for having me around.
No, it's no dramas.
So, I mean, we actually connected via Instagram. It's a beautiful place for the world of bow hunting and I think the outdoor world as well.
It's changing things, that's for sure.
It really is. I mean, realistically, I probably wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for that. And it's been quite cool because we've been able to go out fishing. You invited me to go to the Renegade Bowman's session that they had a few months back, and that was awesome. Yeah,
that was a good weekend too for like beginners and that sort of thing too.
Massively.
But it's just, and like you say before with that social media thing, like that definitely drew a few extra guys out to that weekend too. So that was a bonus.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think as an outsider not being a part of a club yet, that was really cool to kind of have that insight and see what they're willing to do and what they're willing to provide, and just the different shoots that they were doing as well. But more so, the education they put on for everyone was just golden. It was great. Until then, I never knew you had to spin the ears out when you're trying to when you're caping an animal and if you're trying to keep it for taxidermy.
Yeah, they threw me in the deep on that one.
They did. They made you do it for a goat ear, and you actually did pretty quick.
Yeah, I've never used those. I'd never used those ear pliers before.
Yeah.
So that was something new and definitely a lot easier than using a spoon. So
is that what you did last time?
Yeah.
Like a teaspoon?
Yeah, just use a teaspoon, folding that through, and that was definitely buying a set of them pliers.
Yeah. And I mean, coming around to your house is actually incredible because of all the animals that you and your dad have worked hard to get, and now you've got them hanging up around the house.
Yeah.
Even on the floor, because sometimes there isn't space for it, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Before we go too far that way, because I know I've got a little bit of insider knowledge based on the fact that we got to hang out doing fishing and stuff, but you're about to move in with your missus, and something that you talked about was the fact that she's not super keen on the whole bow hunting thing, or she understands why you do it, but she also doesn't really love it.
Yeah, she's pretty cool with me doing it. And that's pretty much where it ends. But obviously I've explained everything to her and how we sort of work it, food wise and, just the general more trying to get out and being away from life for a bit. And that's sort of where I go to recharge anyway. So, and that's, she understands that about me, and that's yeah, she's pretty cool with that.
And so, when you guys move in together, has there been the talk about if the animals are going to hang on the walls or not yet?
Oh, they're going on the wall.
It just might be Mitch's
Yeah,
room.
it's definitely caused a few issues looking, that's for sure, trying to find that room. And it's like, she's thinking, oh, this will be a good study. I'm like, oh, no, this will be good to put the animals in this room.
Good hanging room, yeah. And why can't they be the same, right? A study with some animals.
Yeah,
in it.
exactly. That's right.
Remind you of the outdoors.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I mean, realistically, I've actually just been schooled a little bit just coming here even because you understand in Africa that there is a lot of big-bodied animals, but you don't understand how many there actually are. And just seeing the different hides that you've got, seeing the different animals, like the different taxidermy animals you've got hanging up, like just to even name them all straight away, I couldn't do it. So I was kind of thinking, oh, there's a wildebeest, there's a kudu, and then that's about where my knowledge kind of ended for the bigger ones. But now, yeah, like just seeing the different ones hanging up and looking at the hides is actually so fascinating. It's so cool.
And I was pretty much the same too. Like when Dad first went on his trip, that was back in 2016. When we started going through the list, looking at animals and that sort of stuff, it was like, you read some of these names, you're like, what the hell is that? And then you Google it, you have a look at it, and it's like, oh, that's what that is. And it's amazing how, just obviously, like as a kid and stuff, I'd always watch docos on Africa and that sort of thing, and you sort of goes by the wayside, and then it just sort of brings that all back to you. So, no, it was really cool.
I think the other thing that you, like I was the same, I absolutely loved animals. And when I was younger, I always had all the play animals, had all the play, like toys of Africa.
Yeah.
And a lot of the documentaries and stuff you see when you're younger, it really depicts it as being a really scarce country that they don't have many of the animals or anything like that. Whereas talking to just your dad just before he left, he was saying how some of the animals were literally near extinction, and now since hunting and since conservation has come into Africa, they're back to like 50,000 animals.
Yeah.
Which so many people think is just backwards because they're like, well, hold up, you're hunting the animals, so you're killing them off. But it's actually helping to save the animals because now people are not farming cattle, they're farming game animals instead.
That's right. And and that's how it helps their economy too. Obviously, we pay for every animal that we shoot. And there's a conservation fee involved in that, as well as all the meat goes to feeding everyone as well anyway. So, and plus we get to bring our trophy home, which is the memory for us.
Do you use taxidermists over there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
like, I know a lot of guys do bring them back here to do, but doing that, you've got to get the skins and everything tanned over there.
Yeah.
Before they can come on the plane home. So it just, for us, that was just... it was just more too long a process. You just kind of wanted to get them home. So instead of having to wait for that over there, then wait for it here. Yeah. You know, so, and plus those guys over there, they're doing it every day.
Yeah.
Every day of the year. They know what they're doing. So leave it to them.
Especially their animals, right? Like it's going to be different to doing, say, a red deer or some of the animals that we have here in Australia, like some of the deer we have here. Some of
exactly.
Like they're huge bodies. They really are. And something that I learnt as well was that they're all horned animals over there. There's no antlered animals.
Yeah,
so.
they do have... there's small pockets of fallow deer over there in places, but I don't know where that is. I've just seen blokes shooting them over there. So
yeah, wow. But I mean, before we dive too deep into Africa, because I'd really like to go pretty hardcore on like the whole trips and stuff you've done. But let's talk about your background. I think you're really quite fortunate in the fact that you've always had your dad kind of leading you through this. I think something sick is to see a father-son combo like that, first of all. I hope it's something that I can have with my daughter one day, is to take her out hunting and do that. But really, it's like, I almost feel like you just got a little foot up. But at the same time, we were talking about this before, how he can easily enough say, hey, don't do this, but then you almost have to go and do it before you realize if it's good or bad.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, he's definitely been just that little whisper in your ear when you go to do something, or when you're even just approaching some game. Like, he'll ask me, like, this is back in the day now, he'd ask me, like, righto, what's the plan here? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And you give him a rundown, say, oh, yeah, I want to go this way, and rah. And then he'll just say, okay, what if we do this? And, yeah, most of the time it'd always end up much better doing that. So, and that's the thing, too. You almost subconsciously pick up on that stuff, too, that he's teaching you, because... like as a young fella, I'd be following him around. Yeah. And it's just, he'd do something, you'd do it. Yeah. And that's just the way it was. And like nowadays, when you go to do stuff, sometimes you're like, why am I doing this? And, that's why. Like, this is what Dad did. So, and that worked. So,
helpful. Was there any like major turning points you think when you were hunting? Like for me recently, or not recently, probably last year. So it's still pretty recent, but I would always find an animal and go straight to it. Pretty much, rather than thinking of the game plan of like, okay, let's set up, let's see where they're feeding to and trying to work it that way. Was there ever like a massive turning point for you in your hunting like that?
I can think the day that we both shot our reds was definitely, that was a very joint plan, that one, but it was also like just how it all worked out. That was just, and I don't know if it was more a turning point with learning or anything, but it was also just one of those magic days where it was just me and the old man there, and that's how it went. So it was really, really good day, that one. So
was that during the rut?
That was just towards the end of the rut.
Yeah.
So basically, so what went down was we woke up this morning, hadn't been seeing much. Obviously, the rut's pretty much finished. And we come up with a little plan. We weren't going to go real far. We were just going to walk from the hut. Anyway, walked up and over this first ridge behind where we stay up there, and we could hear this one stag just roaring by himself. And we're like, it's weird. You're a bit late, mate. Anyway, so I figured we knew that roaring him wasn't going to work. But I had a little cow horn in my bag, so I was like, I've never tried hind calling before. I'm going to give this a go. And anyway, give him first hind call, and he responded pretty well straight away.
With a roar or
no, with a hind. Oh yeah, he roared. Roared. Yeah, and you could kind of hear the pitch difference. That he was definitely looking the way the sound came from when he roared this time. Okay. So, and that was kind of like, okay, this might work.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we came up with our little plan. Like we were going to just work our way sort of down towards him because we were above him at that stage. He was down in the valley. And got to another spot, and he roared again when we were just making our way down. So, and he sounded like he was getting closer. So we're like, okay, we'll hunker in here for a bit. And we just caught the head of just a smaller spiker, probably about 80 yards in front of us.
Yeah.
He was just moving through. That was it. He had a bit of a look, but kept going.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we let him go, and we just hunkered in where we were. I kept giving a few more hind calls. 2 or 3 minutes later, out of nowhere comes crashing this little spiker from our hard left, and he pulls up probably about 5 yards in front of me, still looking straight ahead. And I've just frozen because if I move, he's gonna peg me and blow out. And then all of a sudden, just this little white flash goes straight through him. And I look over at the old man, and here he is just holding his bow up with a big grin on his face. And this thing's walked probably 10 yards, if that, and just piled up.
Yeah.
Real quiet, dead silent. And we're like, well, we've achieved what we wanted to achieve here.
Yeah.
So we went over, started checking him out, getting him ready for photos and stuff. And while we're doing that, this other stag roars again.
Yeah, well.
And we're like, geez, he's not far away, eh?
Could be on.
Yeah, it could be on. So we left Dad's deer and kept going down the hill a bit more. And anyway, got to this little bit of a clearing, and we could see him up the other end. So he was standing there with 3 hinds, and I give him another hind call, and he looked straight at me where the sound was coming from. Did that to and fro for about 3 or 4 times, and then the last time didn't even look. He just came running straight at us. So did that panic come to full draw, not knowing where he's going to stop. And he stopped 10 yards facing straight at me. So normally I wouldn't take a front on shot. 10 yards though, 70 pounds. I figured I was going to get in there.
Yeah. So when you took your shot, whereabouts, like, because we're looking at him right now, whereabouts did you kind of aim for? Like, because they obviously got a pretty long neck and compared to where their body sits.
Yeah. So if you see that little, that white patch just in the corner, sort of like his armpit there.
Yeah.
On the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Probably about 2 inches above that.
Yeah, cool. So pretty much like where the start of the shoulder is really.
Yeah,
right?
kind of. Yeah, pretty much.
And you're on an angle like this, like to his
exactly,
front.
probably exactly the angle you're on there.
Yeah, wow. So it's pretty much left.
Yeah.
To his left. Yeah.
Yeah, and it came out his right hindquarters too. So.
Yeah. Did you do you guys keep the meat off of those?
We did take some meat off that guy and Dad's spiker. Spike was definitely the better.
I was going to say,
better feed.
Taste the fair difference.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was definitely worn out.
Yeah, and he doesn't look like he's huge. Was he pretty run down by the end of the rut?
Yeah, he wasn't in the best shape.
Yeah.
He definitely wasn't struggling though either.
Yeah. No.
So yeah, I think it was just more exhaustion, that sort of thing. He was just, yeah.
Yeah. I got out over the Aussie Day weekend and they'd just had rain, so there's a lot of fresh grass around. But I saw a few deer and they all looked a bit manky. Like the drought had definitely got to them.
And I was saying that to a couple of mates the other day. It's going to be a funny sort of rut this year because of that. Everything's going to be. All the animals are going to be mud fat now, but as far as like antler growth goes, I don't think it's going to be there this year because they haven't had that nutrients leading up to this now.
Yeah, I saw a fair few. I saw 2 velvet stags, and they actually look pretty decent.
Yep.
But I don't know if that's just because of the place I go actually has pretty good genetics in general. So
and it's still pretty green up through Brisbane Valley too. Yeah. Most of the year.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like New South Wales is going to have.
They're going to get hammered.
Yeah, it's going to be a very different piece. So I mean, would you do anything different? Knowing what you knew that now after hunting them, would you do anything different when you were hunting a rutting stag or buck?
Yeah, I definitely persist longer.
What do you mean?
So having shot these guys sort of at the end of the rut, I'd persist a lot longer now. With when we first started, it was kind of like when they stopped roaring, we gave up. It was
okay.
And plus, like we'd only been sort of, that was I think that was the 4th year that we'd be going up to this block chasing reds, and that was the first time. Like I'd shot a hind the year before, and that was definitely after the rut. Yeah, that one, and it's hard to obviously trying to plan time off work to get up there when it's happening because you never know it's going to start. Really, you got an idea, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh, they're on, oh, they're off. Yeah, bugger. But anyway, yeah, I would definitely persist a little bit longer now.
And how long were you out for when you got these guys?
That was a 10-day trip. That one.
Okay, and it was on the last day.
Yeah. Wow. No. We shot them probably day 2 or day 3.
Okay. Yeah.
So we timed our trip pretty wrong.
Yeah.
But we still saw deer every day.
Yeah.
And it was just trying to find. Like that sort of circumstance doesn't happen every day.
No, definitely not.
But we'd still see stags, across the valley or stuff like that. So, and then that's just sort of trying to plan a route to get over to them.
Yeah.
I mean, up there, I don't know what your block's like, but the one we go on just thick.
Yeah, it's pretty thick and it's really hilly. Meaning hilly like it's just short little valleys and gaps and shit. And so they love it, but at the same time it sucks because it just swirls constantly in the wind.
Oh, all the time.
It's really rough. We actually thought we were on. I was with a rifle hunter last time I was there, and we came onto 2. It was like a little family, like 3. So there's a little fawn, the hind, and then the stag was there, and he was still in velvet. And we just kind of watched them as they came over a hill, and it looked like they were going to go around the hill. So we kept on the top, and even just as we got to like a little part of where we should have seen them on the other side, they ran off this way because the wind just got to them. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing. As a hunter, you can't control what the wind's going to do. So all your planning in the world can just go out the window like that.
So quick.
Yeah.
And so, like, once you've found a stag or a buck in general, would you try to keep your eyes on it the whole time if you could? No, let's just talk about animals in general. If I do see a good stag, I'll definitely try and hang in that area at least anyway, but not too hard, not pressure him out if he knows I've been in there as well, like scent wise and all that. But it can be hard, like up on that block that we go to, just to even come back, sit there for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, trying to glass and find him again. That gets pretty hard up there with how thick it is. So it's normally, if we do see a good one, we'll try and put a plan in on the spot there. And that's just more to work that block up there. Yeah. Whereas, like, if we go out to Western Queensland and we see a mob of goats that's got a real good billy in them, if we can't get to them there, well, they're going to be there again tomorrow because they're walking, feeding water every day. So yeah, and I think that's where it definitely becomes interesting, like patterning whatever animal you're working with. Most of them, apart from even pigs, like they're all going to do a pretty similar thing day in, day out if they're not getting disturbed.
Yeah.
So you just hope that there's no wild dogs or anything around
Yeah.
that are going to mess them up. Which is actually something that when we went out to the property last time, there was heaps of wild dogs. Like there was one just on the fence line. So we pulled up and there was, once again, it was with the rifle shooters, so they shot him. And then we just heard one howling from the top of this ridge. So we just started calling, and then all of a sudden he came down, and then another one came down, and this whole hillside just lit up. Woo! Just non-stop. It was so crazy.
Yeah, man, we had one morning like that up there too. We just pulled up and got out of the ute, and everything was just eerie, dead quiet for some reason. We're like, what's going on here? Like, not even the birds were making any noises.
Yeah.
And then, probably 2 minutes, all of a sudden, just the whole hillside just lit up howling. There was like, there would have been 15, 20 dogs, I reckon.
Jesus.
When that stops,
Yeah.
it's dead silent again. You're just kind of like, oh, where'd they go? Like, I don't want to
Please
go
don't be
that way.
chasing me. Yeah.
Because the old fellas had he had a pretty hairy afternoon up there with dogs, walking back to the quad bike right on dusk, just when it's starting to get dark, and he's about 80 yards from the quad, and 5 dogs walk across the track in front of him, and he said, shit.
Yeah.
What do I do? So, and because they're funny too, like dogs, because I used to trap wild dogs as well many years ago, but I never had issues as far as like aggression goes towards me. But they were mostly sort of Western Queensland dogs, so you'd only normally see one dog by itself.
Yeah,
whereas I've heard stories about these dogs up here, get them into a group and they're like a pack of teenagers, you know? Yeah, so they get a bit more,
Big
a bit more
bullies.
cocky. So... But yeah,
So what happened that day? Did he? He just
pretty
left
much
them?
nothing. That was the end of it. But he just said he freaked out, didn't know really what to do. Like because obviously they've crossed the track where he's walked. So did they smell him? What's going on? So he just said that was probably the most brisk walk he's ever had back to the quad.
I heard of a story. It was my cousin and her husband. They were out walking, and he's a rifle hunter, and he went off. She just stayed still because they thought they saw something. So he went for a little stalk ahead and ended up being like 300 or 400 meters away from where she was. And then he got onto a dog and started following it. And it turned out that she had moved slightly to get out of the ridge that he was in. And this dog had gone up and was fully stalking her.
Wow.
And so he's pinned between the dog and her. And he's not going to take a shot because of obviously the safety side of things. But he's like, it was such a big dog. Like if it was to attack, it would do some damage.
They're clever animals. Eh?
Oh yeah,
we had a really big white dog come down the back ridge to this hut that we stay at up there one year because I made a bunch of Tenterfield fox whistles for the guys.
Yeah.
And anyway, they're out the back there for half an hour trying to get them to whistle, and Kev kept saying like, "No, this is shit. It's broken. Doesn't work." Rah, rah. And anyway, we went back inside, and 2 minutes later, we looked out the back window, and there's this massive big white dog coming down the back hill. And anyway, Kev had his 243 there, and I had my rifle up there too, and I wish I had a shot at it because all he did was give him a haircut and never saw him again. So
Kev. No.
Bloody Kev.
So I mean, of Australian hunting, where have you been?
Pretty much Queensland, New South Wales is sort of really the only places I've hunted.
Yeah.
From Cape York, Brisbane Valley, Western Queensland.
Yeah.
Down as far as really only about Tenterfield, sort of Inverell, those areas.
Would you say that it's all much the same, or it varies quite a lot?
It varies quite a lot. As far as the two closest to compare would be like the northern New South Wales region with our Brisbane Valley.
Yeah.
They're sort of, that's about it. Like when we go out to Western Queensland, our property's in between St George and Mitchell.
Yeah.
And it's pretty flat country.
Yeah.
Some of it's a bit channel country, some of it's just sandy open country, and then some of it's pretty timbered.
Yeah.
But that's all the old cypress forest they used to have out there. So, and that's sort of where the goats more hang out, and then hang to the creeks and stuff. That's where we'll find all the pigs. Cape York last year was really good.
Yeah.
That was something I'd never done before, and it's definitely something I'm going to continue to
again.
do. So it was different in the sense that it's kind of like hunting the hills wind-wise.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't pick it up there. It just kept swirling all the time. And talking to Scott, Scott Mitchell's the fellow that owns the outfit we went with, he said too also, because you're pretty much smack in between two coastlines, really. You've got two lots of prevailing winds, and they're just swirling all over the place all the time. So it's something you can try and plan for.
Yeah.
But like if you go and hunt Cape York, you're gonna blow animals out with the wind. No two ways about it.
Yeah, they make it look very easy on the videos, obviously. And that's always the hardest thing about watching movies or videos that are all about bow hunting. It always seems so simple. And some of the Bow Hunt Australia ones, Bow Hunt Down Under ones that they've been doing, obviously they do a good job of showing both sides of it, I think.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes it just looks so easy. Just looks like the wind's just blowing right in their face.
Yeah.
But obviously there's a lot of years put behind that. And it's funny because I was talking about hare hunting. It's a very funny story. And you're telling me about this video that you had, a DVD called The Obsession. And it was some young guy who had created a video who'd never really gone back after gone and made any others, but then you went back and
that one up.
went back and found the DVD, and sure enough, it's Jerry Redmond. So I'm gonna borrow that one because the property I go to has a lot of hares.
Yeah,
so I'm
give it a
excited for that. But yeah, I just thought that was very funny.
Yeah.
So I mean, hunting between Australia and Africa are obviously going to be very different. Is there one that you'd prefer, or is it just it's hunting in general? You like both?
I like both, and they're not that far different, really. When you compare like Western Queensland, if you were dropped in like the area we were in Africa, with blindfold, took it off, that's where you'd swear you were.
Yeah.
It just looked the same, and like you'd expect to see like a pig or some goats coming around the corner every second corner you turn, but because it's just that similar. But no, I really do like hunting over there. It's not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
And, each to their own. But we've had a few opportunities, and like with life, if you miss them, you never get them back.
Exactly.
So.
I think something we were kind of talking about before is that it's a bit disjointed in some people's head about what hunting in Africa is. Whereas I think a lot of people here get disjointed when they can't get access to a free block. And it's like, well, hold up, put it in perspective. Like people go to Africa to pay to make sure that the wildlife are looked after. Obviously here it's completely different because we're overrun with them.
Yeah.
And it's hard to then try to get access because hunters have made a bad name for themselves with some farmers, and then it gets spread. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. But going across, like obviously there's a fair investment to go and do something like that. Was there much of a question and much of an umming and ahhing for it, or not really?
That's all sort of animal based too on what you want to target. I had a few questions about it. I did want to target Cape buffalo, and obviously that's one of the big 5 animals. That's so dangerous game. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit more cost involved in that. But I spent a lot of time worrying too much about what it was going to cost and not actually finding out what it was going to cost.
Yeah, okay.
Because I had seen a few other guys like going over rifle shooting and whatnot, getting them, but and you see the prices and you're like, Jesus, I can't do that. I'm never going to afford that. But anyway, like the fellas over there are very similar to us.
Yeah.
They're up for a chat. So I actually sent a message to our PH, and we got talking, and I said, look, I'd like to have a go at Cape buffalo if there's any sort of chance in it. Yeah. And he said, man, we can see what we can do. He said, obviously you can't plan everything.
Exactly.
So, anyway, he gave me a price, and I was like, well, that's not too far out of the question. That's it. So it was just a bit more overtime at work, and I was there. So, and that's what turns a lot of people off too, is sort of how much it does cost. But if you really, really add it all up, when it's probably a bit hard saying this because I know Dad's going back for his 3rd time down. I probably want to go back again too. But like at the end of the day, for some people, it is a once in a lifetime trip. So you might as well,
Splurge out. It's like going to Europe. Like people go and do it, and they'll drop money on the credit card or whatever. Yeah,
that's right. Like some of those trips cost like tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
so it's it's no different really. In my mind, anyway.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, that's the person you need to convince at the end of it, right?
That's it.
So, I mean, it kind of came about because you took a guy hunting here in Australia, and he shot a red deer, and then you got talking over a few drinks that night, and turned out that his cousins had an outfit over there.
Yeah.
And so, what's it kind of look like from there for you guys planning to get over there?
So that's going back a few years now. So. With the fella we took hunting, were the cousin and the brother of the guy that owned this outfit over there. And, you know, we just did what we do, took them out, and, you know, did our thing, and they loved it and they had a ball. And, so they said, you know what, like, we'll have a chat to Harry and we'll try and sort something out. And, sure enough, before you know it, we're talking to Harry. And that first trip over there, I didn't go on that trip. Same thing. It was kind of more that, it's a lot of money. And at that time, I was still only an apprentice too, so I wasn't earning the biggest cash in the world. I kind of just let that one go. And looking back, I did regret it at the time. Some things changed in life, and it would have been really beneficial for me to have gone. But anyway, and then the second time they went, I wasn't missing out the second time, so I went that time. Like it wasn't really too hard, sort of making choices and saving money and booking it all with him. So it's pretty easy when you just try and touch base.
That's like saving for a house or saving for a holiday. You just once you know it's locked in. I mean, you said that your dad's only been there twice now, and you've been there once in 10 days each. You guys have a lot of animals here. Like, are you pretty much knocking an animal over a day if you want to, or?
Oh, look, it's easy too.
But
sometimes a bit of self-restraint's got to come into it as well. So, I mean, I shot 4 animals for the 10 days I was over there. I did spend a lot of time looking at animals because I knew I couldn't shoot anymore. You get that though. And plus, it was kind of a bit of a blessing too, because I got a bit crook over there as well. 4th day in, so there was 2 or 3 days I didn't even go out. But that was just the way the cookie crumbled. But it's hard too, in the sense that because you're hunting from a blind most of the time, you do see a lot of animals. And like we were talking about before, sometimes they come in, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they'll just stand there 100 yards away, just looking, and then decide they want to go the other way. And that was kind of how my Cape Buffalo hunt went too, because I really, really wanted to hunt it on foot. Stalk it. I wanted to be in the moment with it.
So what's the deal with that? Like, can you ask to just go out and do spot and stalk instead of...
That's what I'd said to Harry too, and he said he was really cool about it. He said, we'll definitely get out there and have a go at that. But he said, like... And obviously that was day one when I asked him. And we spoke about it. He said, look, there's definitely an option. He said, this is your first trip over here too. He's like, obviously we don't want to try and go after a Cape Buff on foot for your first animal over here. He's like, let's just try and settle the nerves a bit and just that whole spiel, and I was okay with that. I was cool with that. So, and I know, like, and hunting out of a blind too is not easy. Like, people see it and it's like, you know, like canned hunting and all that sort of stuff. And like, in a sense, yes, but it's also, it can be hard.
It's still different, right? I think it's hard just even sitting there for the day, right? Like having the patience to do that.
I took a little notebook with me and I just do, like, I've got that here somewhere. I'll have to dig that out and show you. But every day that I was sitting in a blind, I'd sit down and draw a little picture of the scene. That way I could write measurements to say that rock was 20 yards away, that edge of the water hole's 30 yards away. So come time, I wasn't mucking around trying to range things through the little window and stuff like that. I'd just look at that, right, he's closest to that. He's probably 2 yards away, bang an extra couple onto it, you know. So, and that made it cool because then I'd put a little X on it if I did shoot an animal where he was and just write a little story about it. So it's kind of what you make it as well, blind hunting. So, it can get boring at times, especially if you're not seeing anything. So,
because I mean that's about 10 minutes of your day taken up. So what else? Do you do?
So for the other 9 hours.
So when it came to actually going out for the Cape Buff, what happened? Like,
well,
how'd that go?
I ended up shooting him from a blind.
Okay.
Which obviously isn't what I wanted to do, but again, like we said before, the opportunity was there, and plus you never know when that opportunity is going to come again.
No,
and
exactly.
The animal that he was.
Had you seen any others before that point? No.
This is day 3 when I shot him, and that was actually the first animal I ended up shooting in Africa too. So,
so completely against
completely 180'd it. But no, and it was like same sort of thing. I'd been sitting there pretty much most of the day. Not a lot had come in that day. Don't know what it was. Just I think we'd seen a few warthogs pretty much for that day. and that was about it. And it was late in the afternoon, and okay, rewind a bit. What actually happened was earlier that day, Dad had shot his sable that we were looking at before. Harry's got a photo of it from Dad's PH, and he went over and had a look at it and whatnot, and he went for a bit of a drive, and it was pretty quiet where I was, so I just sort of hung tight there for a bit, just, if a good warthog or something come in, I'd have a crack. And anyway, Harry came back with Dad, and Dad just said, yeah, I'm done for the day, so he said, I'll come and just sit with you and just chill here for a bit. And anyway, and it was kind of a awesome thing that he did come and do it, because that ended up being the day I did shoot.
Yeah, definitely.
Cape Buff,
be there for it.
Yeah, and that was really special. And sitting there just for hours on end, just nothing. It can get pretty dry. But anyway, this sow and a few suckers were hanging around.
Before you go, do you talk too much in the blind, or is it like
yes and no?
Try not to.
You whisper a bit, and because the other thing too with it is you don't know if something's standing right behind the blind either. So and
walking in and out of the blind, like, for him to come and do that could potentially
that's it. So
off, right?
And he's pretty smart like that too, Harry. He'll you can sort of hear the car a little bit coming, and then you'd hear it just pull up for a bit.
Yeah.
And because obviously I didn't have my phone or anything like working over there, so. And he'd have a good glass from the car through the trees, like, just seeing if anything's coming, if there's been anything coming through, and if there wasn't, he was pretty confident. And I mean, he's been running that outfit for years, so
exactly.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And but yeah, and that day, that sow and those suckers, they were just hanging around. They were probably there for 2 or 3 hours late that afternoon. Then just.
Let's explain a little bit more. You're in a blind and you're overlooking a water hole?
No, so this was kind of like a little rocky water hole sort of thing. Really tiny, probably about the size of this table here.
Yeah, wow.
And and there was a bit of feed there as well, which is still another one that's like, you're just sort of baiting them and whatnot. But it's like, again, each their own. Mm-hmm. Still being in the days where you're just trying to see animals and settle your nerves and stuff. Like I wasn't too worried. I was like, I've spent all this money to come over here. I want to see something. I want to see something and take something. So, and so they're hanging there, and all of a sudden they just cut and run, just dust. That was all that was left behind, eh? And they're just gone. And we're looking around. There's nothing. Can't see anything. And we're like, that's super strange, right? And Harry's like, yeah, that's real weird, because we're looking, they are not stopping, they're just running.
It's gone, yeah.
Anyway, Dad looks out his little side window, and I'll remember it to the day I die. He turned to me, and all he said was, "Are you ready to start puckering?" There's a buff coming in, and we just all shot over, had a look. Oh man, he's coming! Just big lone bull by himself, came in. Anyway, so. That was where the heart started beating. Yeah. That was like beating out of my chest. And so he came in, he fed around for a bit. And then, then it was time to have a shot. Like, because I even said to Harry, I was like, he's a good shooter bull. And he said, yeah, he's definitely.
I mean, that's the interesting thing, because you're going over and you obviously looked at animals, but a lot of the time it's through pictures and stuff.
Exactly. So it's hard to judge body size and that sort of thing, because I know even what we were talking about with goats before, like you can have a big bodied goat, and he looks massive, like horns wise. You shoot him, and it's like, oh, what happened there? Like, but then you get like really small body ones too that are the same.
Big heads, exactly.
It's funny just how animals are different. But like you say, it's obviously I didn't have a live gauge of it.
As to whether it's good or not.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just lucky you had him there with you.
Yeah, exactly. And and time came, and it was just like I didn't even really think about it, because the opportunity's there. Yeah. Like I could spend the next 8 days or so trudging around and not have this chance again. So I was like, kind of weighed it up, and it was like a no-brainer at the end of the day.
And is there a massive difference between the bulls and the cows? Like, is it the bulls are the only ones that have antlers?
No,
have horns, or
cows get horns as well. Yeah, obviously they don't get as big a bosses and that sort of stuff as the bulls do. But it was definitely, you can tell the difference. Yeah,
And how aggressive of a creature are they? Like, for the sow and the piglets to run off?
Yeah, well, they must be, because Yeah, they didn't muck around.
Yeah.
But see, and it's funny too because warthogs are kind of like the bullies around the water holes. They're the ones that shooing everything else away, and they just took off. As far as aggression towards other animals, I mean, I have seen a few videos of like Cape Buff and Rhino having a bit of a go, and I've seen a Cape Buff like having a go with an elephant as well. Like they're just a really unhappy animal.
Yeah.
they just they're kind of like scrub bulls in that sense. Like they're just angry because they're angry.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah, but I mean, like in that sort of situation too, like he's a lone bull by himself, so obviously he's gonna do whatever he can to like self-preserve as well too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And the Cape Buff there compared to the ones here, are they much the same?
So Cape Buff over there, we've got Asiatic water buffalo here.
Okay.
Ours here, body-wise, are bigger.
Much, yeah.
Not by much, but they're bigger.
Yeah.
Whereas the Cape Buff are kind of... They're really built front end heavy.
Yeah. Okay.
So they've got quite a tapered body. When you look at photos, they look really big. But I'm just going off mine.
Well,
He was quite tapered. Like front end was massive.
Yeah.
And when you knock it, like when you like that tapping on it, it felt like a piece of timber. Like that's how hard he felt.
Yeah. Wow.
They're really built to survive. Those animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially over there, right? Like they get hunted. Like everything over there is hunted.
Yeah.
And that's something that was very interesting to talk to you and your dad about before when we were looking at all the different animals here. Just how skittish the animals were and how aware they were, and literally the sound of the string was enough to make them jump and move and twist and bend, and it's just insane.
Well, even my Impala, when I ended up shooting one, I think it was about a 15-yard shot, and I was aiming like right on his ticker because I knew he was going to drop too.
Yeah.
But I didn't think he was going to drop that much, and I still only got like a real high lung shot on him.
Yeah.
And that's over 15 yards. Like they're just
nothing
firing.
And I mean, like, does it seem intuitive? Like, does it seem counterintuitive, I guess, to try and aim any lower than that? She's like, well, hold up, I'm on his ticker.
Yeah,
so I'm good to go.
And that's the thing too. You kind of don't know. Like he was a bit alert too.
Yeah.
And so that comes back to just being aware of what the animal's doing as well too, because his ears were going like mad. So something was upsetting him.
Yeah.
So I knew he was going to be on edge anyway. So I did aim pretty low. But having said that, like they can come in and be happy as Larry as well. So in that sense, you know, like aiming super, super low, you might hit low too. So it's a
risk.
Yeah, that's it. And it's just being aware of what the animal's doing as well and what's going on around that animal.
Yeah. And
I found that a lot over there too, especially because every animal is just so scared of each other, basically. Like we were talking about that bushbuck. When he eventually did come into water, like a bird took off and he freaked out. Like, you know, that's just how on edge everything is over there. And it's like I said before, if you're tiny, you're on edge. If you're big, you're tough. Like that's how it works over there.
No, it's pretty crazy. I mean, you think about the Australian bush and the birds, obviously. I think the birds definitely talk to the animals quite a lot. Like, I feel like they're always on alert and trying to let everyone know that you're there or that something's up.
Mickey birds and Happy Jacks here.
Yeah. Frustrating as hell. But when you're over there and they're just like everyone fending for themselves instead, it's like any noise could be death. It's
Exactly.
pretty crazy.
Exactly.
It's pretty insane. So, I mean, going over, like, of all the animals that you've hunted, is there one that's kind of like the primo? Is the buff like the one that you're like most proud of, or is there any that kind of sticks out like that, or is it all pretty even playing field?
Before my trip to the Cape, definitely the Cape buff was definitely like a pinnacle animal for me anyway.
Yeah.
But as far as physical exertion and like adrenaline was my scrub bull up in the Cape.
Yeah.
Like that definitely. And like they're not everyone's cup of tea either, but like
He's got character.
Oh man, like and just knowing what scrub bulls are like as well. And like I really wanted to try and do it with a recurve as well.
Yeah.
And I did at the end of the day, and just I don't know, like I just got such a wave come over me once he hit the deck, and it was just so different than anything I'd ever shot before. And I wasn't expecting it because I was like, you know, it's cow.
Yeah, exactly.
but like it's an angry cow, and it's still like it's still an animal too.
Yeah.
It's like a life at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, it just hit me real different than anything else. That
Was
one.
that the first animal you taken with the recurve?
No,
No. Okay.
no. I'd taken pigs with it.
Yeah.
And I've shot at a lot of things with it, but that's just all the learning thing too. So, but with that bull, I was just kind of lucky too. He was pretty old, and the way his horns curve, like I've actually written about it in that story in Boning Down Under.
Yeah.
Is I was able to use the curve of his horn over his eyes to conceal my movement. So at the end of the day, I was 10 yards from him when I shot him.
Yeah.
So that was just exciting being that close to an animal like that. And
that's insane.
Yeah.
What like how much practice were you doing with the recurve before you go out for that?
Every afternoon, get home from work, set up here down the side of the house, just keep shooting.
And how far were you confident to?
10 yards. Yeah. Nah, I was pretty confident out to about 30.
Yeah.
So, and that was with a big animal. Like if it was a pig or something, I'd definitely want to be closer.
Yeah.
So, and that's just out of it being unfamiliar to me too. So I knew I'd had to like better my odds the best I can.
Yeah. I definitely find I can shoot my compound bow once a week and still be pretty good with it.
Yep.
Or like I won't touch it for a few weeks and then you go back to it and you're still pretty decent.
Yeah.
Like takes a few shots and you're back in. Whereas with the recurve, it takes like a good few shots to get back there. Like, yeah. And then accuracy is, I think consistency is not there. Like you might take one good shot and you're like, yes, great, I'm back. And then you take the next shot, it's like, boom, off to the side.
And that's the thing too, like, because it's such if your form's not on the money, it can be such an inconsistent piece of equipment. Like you can draw, like, I remember when I was setting that bow up first time, I actually bought it off Jack Spinks, and he's got a shorter draw than I do.
Yeah.
So I was pulling a heavier poundage on that bow, and then when we went down to actually get it sorted for buying arrows, I wanted to actually get a good read on what my draw length was for it, and it varied by nearly 3 inches just because of being that bit higher poundage for me.
Yeah.
Like the first time you pull it to 30, easy. Second time it was like 29.
Yeah.
Then it was like 28. And that's the thing too. So trying to find your good form with the recurve too. Yeah. Super important.
And it's crazy just some of the tips you can get around it, like whether you're going to shoot with 2 fingers, 3 fingers, like if you're going one above or below, if you walk the string or whatever, like there's those little things you wouldn't ever think of until you're actually doing it. You're like, oh, wow. Yeah.
No, but that's what I find fun about it is because it was so tricky for me at first.
Yeah.
And that's what that's where I saw the challenge in it was being just trying to get this thing shooting on the money all the time and then take it hunting, because that's besides like longbow and that sort of thing, that's like going back, it's definitely not like, throw away the sights, throw away the wheels and everything. It's just like, this is raw now. Yeah. So
very different.
That's what I liked about it.
Yeah. I think that's like my goal is to definitely get back to my recurve. Like I've hunted a rabbit with it, which I thought was pretty impressive because it's such a small target.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm definitely not confident to get it out. More so because I don't know about the penetration. Like you'd need to be so close, and I struggle getting that close to an animal anyway. So it's like eventually I'll get back there. I know I will.
Yeah.
But for right now, it's like it's all about the wheels.
That's it. But that's it. That's just time in the bush though too, isn't
Exactly.
it? So just practice.
Yeah. I mean, coming to your house, it's obvious that like the family is pretty into the outdoors. Like you've got a lot of hunting magazines around. You've got a lot of the DVDs around stuff. When was it that you started getting into it all? Like, was it from as young as you can remember you were watching DVDs and stuff?
So when I started I was 13.
Yeah.
And that was kind of where I kicked it back off for Dad as well.
Okay.
Because he was one of the first junior members for Darling Downs Field Archers, and this is late 70s, early 80s, I think.
Yeah.
So he was shooting bows back then, and as he got older, sort of grew out of that and went more into rifles and that sort of thing. Anyway, gun laws came in, and he got rid of all them, and then I came along as well. So everything just sort of went by the wayside.
Yeah.
But he'd kept one of his old bows, and it was just always
on the wall downstairs.
No,
it's actually pretty new.
Yeah. No, it's in the cupboard, I think. And he kept one of his old bows, and it was a real old Fred Bear.
Yeah.
Like just round cam, just, pretty basic.
Yeah.
But like perfect for him when he was that age. And anyway, it was just floating around the garage for years and years, and I was like, oh, can I have a go? And rah, rah. I couldn't pull it back. It was only 30 pounds. And like, anyway, so just every year or so, I'd ask him again, can we have another go? And he said, look, the day you can pull it back, we'll have a go. Anyway, eventually I got there. And I'm not the biggest bloke going, so it took me a while. But the day I got it back, he's like, righto, we'll go and buy some arrows.
Wow.
And this is when we used to live in Toowoomba. And that was very, very close to the time that we did move to Brisbane too. So, which was, I think that was a real benefit too to us in the sport as well, because there's just a lot more availability to things down here. And moved down here, and Dad all of a sudden went and bought a new bow as well, and then I got a new one, and members of the club, and here we are now.
That's unreal. And obviously your dad's been a massive influence within the bow hunting, or your life within bow hunting, but who else has been a big part of it? Because I know from the club you've got a lot of friends, and a lot of them are a lot older, really.
I'm a bit backwards like that. I don't have a lot of mates my age, really. So some of the guys out there, you met Bevan, Bevan Black, I see him as like one of those true old bushmen in his head. Like when you're out hunting with him, he is looking at everything. Yeah. Like you're walking, he'll see a track that just doesn't even look like a track, and he'll pull up and explain why he's seen it and why he's looking at that. And you're like, wow, there it is. And walking along, he'll just see stuff even just picking off the top of grass, where a deer's just walk along, had a bit of a pick here, or on a branch or something like that. He just notices everything, and he's a really good guy to have around camp too, because he is an awesome cook. So that's a bit of a bonus too. And
he actually did the meat safety talk.
When we went out. Because that's what he does for a living. He's a meat industry inspector. So and that's really good too, because obviously it's not hard to get cooked either.
No, exactly.
Just having someone like that around is really good.
Yeah.
And then people like Kev and Bob Windle, they're both really good guys too. Just same thing, just been doing the sport all their life. Yeah. And it's just I've found and it is a bit weird that I have a lot of older mates, but you learn so much more off those guys that have been there and done it.
Way more wiser.
Yeah, exactly. And that's more the sort of thing you learn too, is common sense with everything from them. And because it's easy to go out like a bull at a gate and do things and learn the hard way. Yeah. But when you sit back and watch these guys work, they're so much slower in the way they're moving and everything through the bush as well. And they always come home with something. So it's as a young fella, you're like, well, okay, let's slow it down a bit and just follow these guys and see what they're
It's funny because I'm always, I still even think about, you see some really big-bodied archers. And it's like, how do you guys get out and about? But really, it's because they're not going that far. They just find their spots. They know where to go.
Yeah,
and
that's
they hang
it.
out.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a guy just recently. It was actually a past guest, Matt Eland, and he was talking about, for the rut this year, what my plan was. I'm like, I hadn't really thought of it. I had, but I hadn't. But he's like, man, just make sure when you find them, you just sit down. He's like, just wait, just hang out,
just watch
and be with them. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, it's a good point. Every other time, I've just been so go.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, I reckon I'm ADHD or ADD myself.
But that can be a heat of the moment thing too, because I know I'm guilty of it too. Even now, you see something, it's like, oh man, let's go.
Yeah, let's get it.
And then most of the time you find, I find myself no, come on.
Yeah.
Pull it together. Let's just watch it for a bit, see what it does. Yeah.
It's funny because I really enjoy going out by myself, but at the same time, when you're talking about your dad being in your ear, just having that little whisper to say, hey, why don't we do it this way? Or let's just have a talk about how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And it kind of really, that excites me as well. It's finding a good hunting buddy is definitely something that's so worthwhile.
Yep.
Just because your plan ABC versus their plan ABC can then look completely different. I can just change it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, my goat hunt that I went on, for instance, with Lawrence Arnold.
Yeah.
And we were just pretty much two cowboys trying to get through. I think it was he'd got a few goats before, but there was just an abundance of goats there. There was so many. And so it was like, oh, if we stuff up this opportunity, we can go and do another, which is cool because we learned a lot in the 3 days we were there. But at the same time, it's like, okay, if I had my chance again, I would do so much so different.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Like, you learn so much more from a failed hunt than a successful hunt.
Yeah.
Like, in my mind.
Oh, definitely.
And it's just because you've got a bit more to look back on.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, so I did this and that animal reacted like that. Why? Let's think about that for a bit. So,
and it's funny because you guys were talking about the animals you guys have hanging up in your house. You remember each and every hunt. Whereas I don't have any animals hanging in my house, but I've got lots of failed experiences that I still remember every bit of it. I'm like, oh, that's right, this happened, and this is what stuffed up.
And that's what builds that hunting common sense.
Yeah. It's quite cool. So I'm really excited because it was so funny when I came into hunting. I was like, or bow hunting in particular. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get a deer down so quick because I've got access to this deer property. Like they're pretty good there.
I said that once.
Yeah, here I am 2 years later, and I was like, man, you're a dickhead back then. Like you should have just been patient from the start. And now I think I've got so much more of an understanding and so much more of an appreciation for the animal. Like previously, it was just a red deer. Or it was just a deer.
Yeah.
I didn't know the difference between the red deer compared to your fallows, compared to like, your roosters and everything. Like it's just so interesting now, and I've seen them so much in the wild. And you just grow like an actual like love for the animal. Right? It's so cool. Yeah,
yeah, and like especially with deer too. Like they're just one of those things that just so majestic to watch anyway.
Just elegant,
just
hey?
like
Yeah.
especially like a big stag.
Yeah.
They just stand so proud.
Yeah.
It's just such a cool thing to see.
Yeah.
And like that's half the thing about going out hunting too. It's not the hunt. It's just the things you see and experience when
you
you're
talked
there.
about now you guys are bird watchers, right? Like
I'm a massive bird nerd now.
Yeah.
Like, that's just because if you pull up on a creek or something when you're out chasing pigs, like it's amazing once you stop moving how much life is actually moving around.
Yeah.
Like. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's so cool, like just seeing the little colourful birds flying around. Like you'll just be sitting there, and the smallest little the finch, the small ones, or the wrens, maybe.
Yeah,
both.
Yeah,
do we have them both here?
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure it was a little. I don't even know.
Like a little zebra finch or something like that.
Nah, like a little completely blue-chested one.
Oh, a wren, fairy
It might
wren.
have been a wren, yeah. It was just so incredible. Like you just see that, and I just got my binos out, and we were looking at it. I was looking at him from 10 meters away, but just to have the binos on him was just incredible. Like that close. You're like, wow.
Yeah,
like,
it's
now
cool.
I can see why people get into it.
Yeah, that's it, and it's such a nice, like, it's just a peaceful thing too. First thing in the morning when you're out walking around, and that's all you can hear is just all the birds
singing.
making noises. Like that's why I go out there just to relax, and like
It's funny. There's two things that do that for me, like refill my cup, and one's surfing, and the other one's getting out in the bush.
Yeah.
It's just, always. You just feel so good after a weekend. And it's funny because obviously we've all got our own lives and everyone's got their own stress. It's all relative. But if you go and do that, like even if I'll work my ass off all weekend in the bush and come back and just feel so good. Like so
exactly.
ready to hit the week.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. Like it doesn't matter how, like you could have, like, I mean, I've had some shocking hunts in my time. Like you just overexert yourself, just pushing to that next ridge. And like, if the animals aren't playing the game, there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
So it's like, you try and keep planning for what they're doing, but some days you just get it wrong every time. So it's just, and like you say, you come back and you're like, you shagged, but
You just feel great.
it feels awesome because you're like, now you know what's on that ridge anyway.
Yeah.
You just got to try and take positives out of everything you do.
Definitely. I think something I love the most is the property that I go to, I don't get reception there.
Yep.
So it's perfect. You actually switch off from everything because my business is completely online. It's like, oh, thank fuck.
Yeah.
You get away from
that for a bit.
Yeah, because I mean, at home, even though I've got some pretty good boundaries in place, the phone will still ring, or you still have your emails attached to it. Also, it's just nice every once in a while.
Yeah, that block of ours out near St George, same thing.
Yeah,
like about 10 minutes outside of St George, you lose reception. That's it.
Just
you've still got another hour drive to get to the block. So there's like in the quarters we stay in there. Like no TV, no radio, nothing. It's just quiet. The only thing you can hear is just the hum of the ingle going. Yeah. That's about it. It's just so nice. Like get a crackle of a fire at night, and it's just pitch black. So many stars. Like just the whole thing.
I think that's something that so many people miss out on. Like if you've grown up in the city and you've never gone out to a property with no lights on of a night, like you're missing out. It's just so cool to see what you can see out there.
Yeah.
Like I remember being young, never really understanding what the Milky Way was, and then we moved out to the property, and I was like, we saw it every single night. I was like, wow,
it's something special, too, because it's another one of those like awe-inspiring things. 'Cause it's like, man, we're really small.
yeah, exactly. I love actually all the photography and all the videos that people do, like the moving ones of the
they look pretty cool.
The stars just moving.
I've tried doing those. I'm not there yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I don't have the right lens for it. Maybe one day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's coming up for you? What's in the future or 2020?
Obviously, the rut's coming up pretty soon, so trying to plan for that around work and whatnot.
Looking like weekends, or are you going to
I think we're going out next weekend down to down near Emmerville. But the property that we go to, he's just sold it, but he's bought another one on the other side of Emmerville, but he doesn't go there for a few weeks yet. So it's kind of going to be a bit touch and go. It'll be like get there, do a quick scout, and be like pretty much there.
Man, when I went there, there was so many animals in Emmerville. It was ridiculous.
It's a crazy place. Like we drove down there. The first time we went to that property, we're driving through Emmerville itself, the town, probably about 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And there's this fella deer walking down the main road. It's like, what's going on here?
We got told that would probably happen.
Yeah.
It didn't. There was so many rabbits. Like, it was crazy. The amount of rabbits. And we heard something storm off. Like, when we set up camp, Lawrence actually hopped out to go for a piss, I think, and something, like, took off. So we think that was probably a deer.
Yeah,
Might have been a kangaroo, but, I don't know. It definitely made a fair thrashing when it left.
Yeah.
But, it's crazy.
No, so that's coming up. And trying... I think the next major hunt for me is probably going to be New Zealand.
Yeah, cool.
So it's not really a definite plan yet, but it's something I want to put in the pipeline. So yeah,
that's sick. That'd be cool.
Definitely something I'm starting to buy gear for at least anyway. So
would it be after anything in particular? You going for the chamois or tar? Or
I would love to get a tar.
Yeah.
They just man. They're another animal that's just like, this is my house. This is where I live. Like. Try me.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, that's what they're saying, really.
You can climb up this ridge if you want.
Yeah, man. Like, it was pretty cool, too, to chat to, again, some of the older guys down at Bathurst last year.
Yeah.
Like Alan Bowman and Graham Cash. Like, they all went over in one trip together over hunting the Fjordland, and they all have had hit replacements since. So it's like, shit.
I wouldn't blame it on that, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say
lifestyle.
ages there, but it's pretty, it's still pretty daunting to hear. It's like, wow,
definitely.
might be biting off more I can chew, but, you know.
No,
and that's cool to see guys like, just, you say guys like, but everyone that goes over, you see all their stuff, and it's just like, it's so cool.
I don't
it
know
just
if
looks like an
following,
awesome
but
place.
James has been over there for the last month.
Yeah,
and
he's having a great trip.
Yeah, dude, it looks so incredible.
Just his fishing.
Yeah,
Man,
looks so good.
So good.
But he got his first tar down. He was just so stoked.
Yeah,
it looked awesome.
And
Looked incredible.
But you see the work that goes into it.
Put in. Like, he was out until 4:30 in the morning,
exactly.
like getting it all, and then he had to go back and go straight to work. And it's like, fuck, hat off to you, dude.
That's it, exactly. You put in the miles, you're gonna get rewarded.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, we'll probably start to wrap up. On the fishing note, we went out fishing, and I'd never really gone after the mangrove jack at all. But it was quite cool to just we were just in the kayaks, just going down the little estuaries and just throwing hard up against the mangroves. And I've actually got another mate that I saw last week, and he's been catching them at the mouth of the river. While it's been really stirred up now, he said they're really aggressive at that time. They'll go right there and they just feed on everything. Like
they're catching
some big suckers.
They're catching Barrett, Sunny Coast, and Gold Coast now too.
Really?
Like on those runoff spots. So
yeah, wow,
that's pretty crazy.
But I definitely, if you had to choose a fishing team, I'd definitely go Team Mitch, because you picked up about 6 fish and I got none that day.
Mate, it happens. Like and I've been out too with trips with Blakes too, and it's definitely the polar opposite. I'm like, losing lures, and not catching fish.
Ineffective day.
Yeah, but that's the same thing. It's just like hunting, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So just take what
it's just good being out there.
Yeah, that's it.
I was just stoked to be on the water that day. So where can people follow along? Like, I mean, you've obviously lived a good life of bow hunting already, and you've got quite a good amount of different videos and photos that you put up. Where is your best place to kind of follow?
Pretty much just Instagram, really.
Yeah.
Obviously it's linked to Facebook, so you see it on both
anyway.
platforms anyway. So
yeah,
it's just I'm pretty sure it's just Mitch.Warren.
I think so. Yeah,
pretty basic.
Mitch.Warren, yeah. Perfect. Well, dude, thanks so much for having me. It's been good.
It's
Good to
awesome.
talk.
Thanks for coming.
Very well. That wraps up this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, team. If you did have any topics, questions, or you wanted to suggest a guest for Becoming a Bow Hunter, you can send me an email at matty@becomingabowhunter.com. If you are enjoying the show or you've enjoyed in particular episodes, please do me a solid and share it around with your friends. If you are not already, please hit the subscribe button, as the more subscribers we get, the higher the podcast gets ranked, and that definitely helps out for showing it to other individuals. If you are not already following me on Instagram, it's at becomingabowhunter.podcast, and on YouTube, it's Becoming a Bowhunter. Get out, team, fling some arrows, get that practice in, and walk those yards in the paddocks until you find those critters. That is it for now, but not the last time that you'll hear from Becoming a Bowhunter.